All right. Well, the audio didn't work on that, so sorry about that, Startup Dads. But you know how it is with
All
technology.
right.
Welcome to Startup Dad Headquarters, where we're just having tons of issues today. And, no, where we're exploring the intersection between fatherhood, entrepreneurship, and life. I am your host, Joel Lewis, and today, Startup Dads, backstage, I have a good friend of mine, Greg Barth. So Greg was feeling lethargic, uninspired, and lacked a zest for life. He made a decision and took control in his life in 2009. He started a home fitness workout program, transformed his body, and lost 25 pounds. I'm getting excited about this interview already. These changes turned into a complete mindset shift for Greg. When many others kept coming to him for help, he recognized the opportunity and began to coach them to create their own success. From that point, he continued to help others in numerous other ways. He has built a team of other coaches across the country who also help people believe in themselves and start to live a more fulfilling lifestyle. To take his message to more people, he started creating YouTube videos and created a blog, realizing how fitness represents a much larger picture and then losing and then much larger picture and then losing weight. He created another brand called The Life of Now, and that's thelifeofnow.com, and launched a podcast in May of 2014. That's actually how Greg and I met. He interviews authors, motivational speakers, entrepreneurs, and many others who simply have an inspiring story and of overcoming struggle to create triumph. The message of his show is to help inspire others to get past their fears and find their true purpose. Are you ready to become a better version of you? Greg, welcome to the show. Sorry if I butchered your bio, but we'll definitely get into your story.
No, no, it's all good. Thanks for bringing me on, Joel. This is going to be fun.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said before we started rolling, I always mess up these bios, but I'll clean it up in the audio version. The video version I keep raw because I want people to see. I want the startup dads to see like it's not all sunshine and rainbows. It's not all perfect,
Oh, really?
right?
I thought it was. What?
Exactly. So, I spend a lot of time editing my audio that goes onto the podcast, but I leave the video exactly the way it is. So
Yeah.
they can see, hey man, we're just humans, trying to make a difference and trying to live a different kind of lifestyle. So
I like that because there's there's some power in the unedited version a lot of times. The
yeah,
behind the scenes, the real stuff,
right, right.
the
So
real technology issues.
yeah, exactly. So now they get out to see all the bloopers and everything, and this will go on the show notes. So the video will go on the show notes. It also lives on
Cool.
it also lives on YouTube, but I tend to drive everyone to my website for them to watch it there. And then
Oh yeah, love YouTube.
oh yeah, oh yeah. So I told the startup dads a little bit about you. Take a minute and give us a little bit more about what you have going on right now before we start jumping into our segments.
Well, my latest endeavor is this. Speaking of YouTube, is this daily video I'm doing,
Okay.
which is I'm just feeling it out right now. But the whole goal and the idea came from someone I had on my podcast, Renee Christine, who is a YouTuber. She has 10,000 subscribers, and that's as in the YouTube world, that's usually one of the bigger milestones.
Right.
And then another YouTuber I had on, Amy Schmidauer, is marketing and sexy savvy sexual. It's not. It's I just butchered that. It was savvy sexy social. Is her? Hopefully she's not listening. She'll really punch you in the stomach for that one. But she
Right.
does a lot of marketing and YouTube videos, and she was the other one that was influencing. Just do a video every day, and
Oh,
like, how do you up your game a little bit? Everyone's doing 30, 60, 90-day challenges, especially in November with different you pay it
right.
forward types of things, and And my whole brand is getting outside my comfort zone and tackling fear and fitness and nutrition and all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So then I was talking with another mentor friend, and he was like, "Well, you already do video, and it's fairly easy for you to do that. How
Right.
can you get outside your comfort zone? Let's do a video every day on something." So the whole goal of it is for me to tackle a fear of mine. It could be
Mhm.
something smaller, a daily fear, or something larger. But I also want to take it, also like take the mic out in public and bring the community in and help other people get past a fear. Just
Yeah.
to encourage and inspire people to not get so stuck in their life. And it can
Right.
be fun. It could be a mixture of fun, humor, and inspiration. And who knows where it's going to take me from here. But
Yeah.
that's my latest thing I'm doing.
Yeah. Cool. I like that.
Pretty fun.
Say that again.
Oh, it's fun, but it's also a little nerve wracking, which is,
Right.
the whole idea is fear,
Right.
is what should I talk about, and the consistency actually to pump it out every day on
Right.
top of what I already have committed to. So that's my first fear, was committing to it.
Yeah. Talking about raw videos, are you just shooting them raw and just uploading it, or are you doing like edit and adding intro and trying to make it look sexy and pretty and
I'm doing both. It is a combination. I have a whole Visio diagram, not a Visio diagram, but a chart of all the steps that I have to go into the video,
yeah.
upload process, editing, outro, intro, and the whole thing. And I'm using some automation to post to social media. So I had this whole plan put together, but the idea is not to over edit, or it's mainly one shot, and
Mm-hmm.
then I'll put in like a overlay of text, and
Yeah.
then a little intro and a little outro that are the same. So
Okay.
it's not really that big of a deal. I'm not doing like Hollywood editing and bringing in all these different pieces, but eventually, I'll sprinkle in one every once in a while, is the plan, where it's a little bit more professional, a
Yeah.
little bit more thought, but not every day.
Yeah.
That's a big task.
Yeah, I went to a conference last year where one of the guest speakers, I forget his name right now, but he was focusing on what they call, what we call rejection. And it was an Asian guy. I can't remember his name, but I'll put it in the show notes. I'll find it and put it in the show notes. And basically, he was doing something similar. I can't remember. I don't believe it was daily, but at least once a week, he was going and he was intentionally going out there to get rejected. So go
Nice.
he would go to like he would go one of the biggest things that he did that went viral because was he did YouTube and he went into a Dunkin' Donuts and basically asked them if they could create a Dunkin' Donuts if they could create a Dunkin' Donuts that looked like the Olympic rings. So basically he was asking for custom made donuts and they actually did it. They actually did it. So and that video actually went viral. I think
You should. Yeah, I'll definitely be interested in seeing that,
yeah,
because those are some good ideas for me to spin with a little bit, to
right. Right.
to create the curiosity and just to get people interested. And the whole bottom line is to get them inspired to do something different
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
not just do the same thing every day.
Yeah.
That's the whole idea.
Yeah, yeah, I love it. Cool. So, as you know, this is Startup Dad headquarters, and we're all about the family as well as, showcasing amazing startup dads like yourself. And I'm really excited to get into this conversation because you are my first fitness expert that I have on the show. So I know you'll be able to
Do
answer.
push-ups. It's time for push-ups.
You have me doing some burpees and push-ups.
Oh,
Yeah, no,
not my favorite.
yeah, exactly. So the first segment of the show, I was recently inspired by a quote that goes, "No other success can compensate for failure in the home." And that quote, I feel like, is a good segue into the first segment of our show, which I call Family First. And you submitted a beautiful picture of your two girls, right? And I'm going to bring that picture up and talk to me a little bit about that, what you have going on right now with your girls and your family.
This picture was the trip in August that we took. I live in Minneapolis, and we drove from Minneapolis to Dallas, us
Yeah.
three,
Nice.
which is about 1,500 miles, something like that, or
Wow.
12 to 15-hour drive one way. And my oldest on the left there, she just turned 13. she was fighting with me a little bit, not necessarily wanting to go
Yeah.
because she's partly that age and she wanted to be with. She had some things with going on with friends, and there's some drama involved. But I'm like, let's. There's too many things that we're not always connecting on as a family, and I want to connect with them in a deeper way. And one of my goals was to get down to podcast movement for the conference. That's what I went for. But I wanted to make this a whole experience for the family. And we stopped a lot and we had a lot of fun. We took a lot of goofy pictures like this one
Mhm.
and Instagram, and by the time we got out of town about 100 miles, she was already smiling. And by the time we came back, she was saying, oh, we got to do this again. They got to see their cousin Jackson, and this was so fun. And it was long. They admitted that. But
Right.
one thing that I don't know how I pulled this off, but they're 9 and 13 right now,
Right.
and I liked electronics and my iPhone and everything else. But the whole time down there, I
Hmm.
think maybe an hour was used. They were using electronics, but the rest of the time we were talking and singing to the radio a little bit. I don't think we had the radio on. It was maybe they had electronics on for music or something. But it was just a lot of talking and just asking questions, telling stories, and looking around, which is a lost art. It's something we don't really focus on anymore.
Yeah.
I thought that was really cool, and it was a really strong bonding experience. And I
Yeah.
was so glad that I did that, rather than even if I went myself and I flew or whatever. But those are moments when I was young. I'd never forget those trips when I was young.
Right.
We'd pile into a car and truck across the country,
Right.
and this was the same thing. And so
Yeah.
that was really fun for me, and it's something that I'll always have, and I won't forget very fast.
Right. Right. Yeah. It's those amazing moments when you're just kind of like, we think that all these like the big Disney trips and all that kind of stuff is the amazing moments, but sometimes it's just when you're in your living room and you have a little tent and you're kind of just all cuddled
Yeah.
up together and maybe you have the laptop open watching a little cartoon or a little movie. Those are the ones that are memorable and the ones that they love and appreciate. So yeah, that's
Yeah, it's the simple things. Like even my older daughter, Alyssa, she was having some stress a little bit about the trip, and I just walked her through some meditation when I was driving. I just
mm,
told her to close her eyes and just breathe in and just kind of telling her. I was talking her through some things in 5 minutes or so, and she's like, "Yeah, that's kind of I feel good." So like, yes, yes, this is nice. This is good. So it was a lot of fun. I'm just looking forward to doing that again.
nice. At
Not
15,
the long drive so much. It did get long,
what was the
but it
total
was
time?
good.
What was the total time of the drive?
Oh, I think one way is about 12 or 15 hours.
Wow.
So it's close to 30 hours of driving time.
Yeah, for a 9-year-old and a 13-year-old, it must have been
Yeah.
like, and then with their dad too. It's like, oh, get me out of here.
Mhm. Yeah, and then we tried to stop at certain places along the road. We actually visited like 4 Whole Foods stores, I think, or so. We just stop at certain cities and just to get out and take some pictures, explore different things, and so
Yeah,
it was a lot of fun.
nice. So what does fatherhood mean to you?
Fatherhood means having a relationship with my daughters and they have, I mean, like we both have this mutual respect towards each other.
Mhm.
The biggest thing that I want is respect, because I think if we all get along, we can have fun. I can still be a fatherly figure, but I also can be guidance or a friend to some extent. They When we respect each other, I think they'll make appropriate decisions, and they'll always respect me and ask me for advice and follow some of the things that I feel is really important in life. That they'll kind of go down that same path, and I love to see leadership skills in them and confidence, and
Mhm.
that's one of the things that I try to express and show them by me doing certain things, and I can see them standing up and volunteering in school and
Yeah,
wanting to go to the front of the class and talk. And those, if you can be confident and not worried about public speaking or some of our leadership skills, you're going to go a long ways.
absolutely.
And there's some things that it's not really it's a little beyond school knowledge, where it's not a mathematics course. It's
Right.
you can talk to people and make connections
Right.
and lead a meeting. You know, there's power to
Right.
that.
Yeah, and I think it's definitely something you want to learn early than something you have to battle to learn later.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
Yeah, I always think like, well, why be afraid of if I use public speaking? Why are we afraid of it? Because we build up over time that we're supposed to be afraid of it.
Right.
But if we start early enough and you don't even think twice,
Yeah.
it was actually my older daughter again, when she was first grade, they had a talent competition at school, and
Mhm.
she got to stand up and tell two jokes. But she was first grade, and there was a full school of parents that came to it,
Yeah.
and she told her knock knock joke. She got some laughs, and then some of the kids were getting a little excited and getting out of hand. So she just calmly waited. She kind of held her hand up to quiet them down. Then she continued on. I'm like, right. First grade, I'd get rattled.
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
So it's good.
How do you balance between, the business that you're running, your full-time job, and then, taking care of your two girls and spending time with your two girls?
Well, it's a tough balance, but right now I'm divorced, so I'm going through the transition, and some of that it's just more been I've been talking about more publicly, but so we're working out more of like when I can spend more time with them, and it actually seems to work out almost better in some ways because there's focused attention
Yeah.
where I might be around them all weekend, but not so much during the week.
Hmm.
And then I'll see them during the week, like different activities, school activities and things. But it's um, it's mainly just trying to devote time for it.
Yeah.
And we ended up watching a lot of movies lately, and it's probably not great, conversation during those times, but that's something we just do to relax. And I like to different board games or something that maybe is not like electronics to
Right.
shift that, push that away a little bit sometimes. And I have deep conversations with them. I'll ask them questions about school and friends and like what are you doing now? And I'm just trying to be involved
Okay.
is the biggest thing.
Now the divorce is recent, right? So what was it like
Yes.
before? What was your time with them before this? Because we'll get into the startup dad journey, and I know you
Mhm.
started in 2009. How were you balancing the time before that?
The time just in general with them or
Yeah,
just
with them.
everything?
Sorry.
Mainly it was we were all in the same house, so then I would help more with homework and when I was physically in the same location. But
Yeah.
now their homework's starting to get where I'm not helping as much because eighth, ninth grade math, whatever. I could figure it out, but I need the material. But
Right.
it was more a lot more involved, probably more often, but
Hmm.
in smaller spurts. I guess would be a better way of defining it.
Okay.
And then we would do a lot more all together. My ex and I we're still very good friends, and we still do things as a family sometimes, like more of when it's maybe a school activity, or we'll all kind of go together or meet
Right.
there. But yeah, I had more roles as far as um, different, like school activities is a good example, or dishes and homework and all those little things. A lot more of those chores. It was different.
Yeah.
But as far as our relationship goes, it's not drastically different now that I'm just not in the same house all the time.
Hmm.
Because I still talk with them and I text them. And last night, one of them needed to go to the library, and I had a podcast interview coming up, and I didn't have a lot of time. But I'm
Hmm.
like, okay, hold on here. I'll buy myself 10 minutes. I ran up to the house, picked her up, we went to the library. We got everything, and then I looked at her. I said, it's hard for me to turn you down when you text me and you say you need something. So I try to do whatever I can, but it's different definitely now than it was. But
Yeah.
um, like my schedule is before I would get up in the morning. That's when I do my workouts, and I can go into to that more. But then I would help more with breakfast. It would be
Oh,
one thing I was doing where I'd help them out, and then I would even walk out to the bus sometimes and kind of
right.
make sure they're on the bus. And that part is not really what I'm doing now because I'm not there.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. It's a little.
it's different.
Yeah. Cool. Now, I haven't had a lot of guests as of yet who have, I guess, what is it, tweens, early teens? Is that what it's called, right?
I think it's. I don't know if I want to know though.
Right. Have you figured out a way to incorporate them into your business? And
Yeah, I have. I have. I actually was joking a little bit, but somewhat serious. This summer, I wanted to have them intern for me. That was didn't really go as I wanted to. I didn't really get too into it, but I showed them the editing for the podcast. I showed them how that works, and they'll bring up questions like, "Yeah, Dad," they're proud of it at school because their dad is podcasting, and this it's something that's not very common.
right.
But I showed them some of that. I had them on. They did an intro for me, so once in a while I'll throw that in before the episode where they introduced the episode, and then they actually were on episode 22 or one of those somewhere in there, where I asked them like their advice on what's their thoughts from a 9 and 13-year-old on nutrition and what their goals in life, and they went into detail on where they want to travel to. And Alyssa, my older daughter, wants to go to Harvard, so she talked about that, and just, and then my younger daughter wants to go to Paris. That's like a big goal for her to travel, and she was explaining in detail about that. But that's for me. That's creating vision and strongly or knowing that if they want some of those things, there's no reason why they shouldn't be able to do that.
Yeah.
That's what I want to instill in them.
Yeah. Awesome.
Vision.
Yeah, definitely. So, Greg, now that we know a bit more about you and about what you have going on right now, it's time that we talk about your start. It is Startup Dad headquarters, right? Oh,
Yes, it is.
so one of my favorite
Push-ups.
one of my favorite quotes is the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. Take us back to 2009, or maybe even before then, when you started your journey.
Well, I used 2009 because that's really when I see the switch really.
Hmm.
I was always active as a younger child. I was playing the three major sports, team sports all the time.
Hmm.
Football, baseball, basketball mainly. It was always in that. And then I was always really active, but even into college, I never really lifted weights. I just didn't really ever I didn't like it at all. It just wasn't for me. That's for other.
Right.
And then when I look back, I see things a lot differently and how I maybe could have tweaked this or that but it wasn't we don't really change until something has forced us to make a change. Something isn't really uncomfortable enough or drastic enough. And for me, I wasn't 200 pounds overweight or I wasn't in misery, but I just had this call it a lack of zest for life. I just was lethargic. I was daughters were starting to grow up, and I came out of that fog where I could actually sleep again. And the first couple of years, it's just like survival mode, and then when they get a little older, you start to figure out I can take some time for myself again. And as I was thinking, I was looking in the mirror, and I'm thinking to myself, I was 38, and I was just going along.
Hmm.
I was just doing the average things, which wasn't terrible. I was working a good job, and I was not overweight, but I was soft, and I just didn't have that oomph. And I
Hmm.
noticed that enough to say to myself, I wanted a change. And growing up, I've never really been type A or just all or nothing.
Yeah.
So I was fine with what I was doing and what average was, but that trigger went off, and I saw these infomercials for the workouts, and I'm like, I think that's what I need. So I
Hmm.
asked a few people, and okay, it's time to make a change. But when I dove in, once I made the choice, I
Hmm.
wasn't looking back, which was different for me. Is I made the line in the sand that I'm going to change this, and I never looked back, and I haven't looked back
Yeah.
since that day, October 5th, 2009. I still remember it. And the second day, I almost puked, I almost vomited on myself, but I kept going. But it's like a ladder, because the first few steps I lost weight, even though I didn't think I needed to lose weight, and
Hmm.
then I lost a little bit more,
Hmm.
and then I gained more confidence,
Hmm.
and I started doing more public speaking or more video on YouTube, and you just kept building and building, and then people were coming to me for help, and so I started to help them, and then it turned into meeting more people that think differently, and then it created this podcast. It's just continuing to change,
Okay.
where my mind is growing much
Right.
bigger too, and what I think I can accomplish, what I know I can accomplish.
Right.
That's what's really cool to me. And now it's really hard not to talk about it and not to want to share that with
Right.
others and want to help them do the same thing. And that's
So
really where I'm at now, is I want to help them do the same thing.
when did the mental shift start? Because I think, taking action and then building the business is a major step of the journey. But like you've been pointing out, I think there's a mental shift that actually has to happen first to say I can do this, or
Yeah.
I want to do this. Right? There's a catalyst that pushes you and say I need to change this. So when did that mental shift start happening for you?
I think it was in a little bit, probably a couple different stages, and you're always shifting your mind a little bit. Where it started, where I wanted to make the physical change, and that was like, okay, I'm going to do it. Actually, when I look back farther, maybe to 2007, that's when I started. I went to Toastmasters group, so public speaking was a big thing I was working on, and that's
Okay.
kind of kept moving. And I also, that was about the time when I opened Rich Dad Poor Dad. That was my first book that
Right.
I read that started to change my mind. And I was doing some real estate investing, or looking into doing some of that, and I ended up flipping a house, and I ended up having a rental property, and so that started to open my mind to like entrepreneur ventures. And
Mhm.
but when I look back to when I was young, I've always had this idea in my head that I wanted to do more of, be my own, have my own business and create my own things.
Right.
But along the path, I lost that.
Right.
I went into what was maybe, it was good, but I wanted more out of that, and that's kind of where I'm going now, is to fulfill the more piece.
Okay. So you went. Why did you go to Toastmasters? Did you had some kind of vision of public speaking at some point?
No, I actually was looking at a different job at the time, and it was more into the sales area, where that was one of the requirements, and I think it was probably in the description where you're doing sales demos and things like that. And at the time, I was thinking, yeah, I don't mind doing, standing up and talking, but really deep down, I knew that I didn't volunteer,
Mm,
and I was a different person. It took a long time to build all that, all the practice and the confidence, and they all molded together. The
hmm.
confidence is created from working on yourself and practicing and getting your health under control. And but it was, when I started public speaking, it was because I wanted to improve and move into a different role for my career.
Yeah.
But little did I know where it would take me.
Yeah.
It's
And
helped in every aspect.
yeah, one of the things that I've been trying to focus on with Startup Dad is that, looking at what are the skills that you already have, right? Instead of focusing on, oh, I want to start this business, but I can't because I don't have X, Y, and Z, and now I need to go back to school, or I need
Mhm.
to do this, and I need to do that. Looking at, like, in your situation, you went and started doing public speaking for a whole different reason, and you started working out just personally for your own health,
Mhm.
and you've been putting in those hours, becoming an expert in those things, and then you decide to take that, and that's what we're going to go into right now, and create a
Yeah.
business, right? So people started knocking on your door, calling you, Greg, how did you get so fit? You're 38, you're 39, 40. I want to look like you. So tell us about that. How did you, people started knocking on your door. When did you get the light bulb moment to say, maybe I got a business here?
Well, and that was evolution too, where it was one step or one brick at a time. But like you're saying, it's best to go where you're, what's easy and what you're already doing, because we all have talents, but we, a lot of times when things are easy for us, we don't think
Right.
it's easy. We think it's easy for everyone. Where, it's easy for me to create a website, or it's easy for me to lose so many pounds or whatever.
Hmm.
But it's when people started to come to me more, and I knew that I had quite a, when I saw some of my older pictures too. I mean, I was 190 pounds. That's not really that big,
No, that's not
but
bad.
I
How
was
tall?
soft.
How
I
tall
was
are you?
soft.
How tall are you?
Six. I was 6 feet tall, 190. That's what I was, 189
That's
when I
good.
started.
Yeah.
And part of me was I don't really I think my heaviest was like 193, maybe 195, but I didn't want to get to 200. That was just my thing in my head.
Right.
And I got all the way down to 160, I think, at one point.
Wow.
I was doing like a cleanse in it, but I have a good balance if I don't want to be just all about like a weight. I don't really care about a number on a scale necessarily, but I was feeling so lean. I was like, just feel like I could conquer anything I did, but people were coming to me and they noticed that there was a huge shift in me, and it wasn't just physical. They could see the other piece, the mindset, and how I was presenting myself and how I was talking with others and just interacting in general. And they started to come to me, and it was just a natural process. I was really excited about it, and when I was seeing what it was doing for me, I wanted them to have that, and it wasn't trying to talk them into something. I was just sharing what I was doing and what I am doing to this day.
Yeah.
And people don't believe something if you just talk about it, like we should do this. Well, I don't do it, but you should. I heard someone else did it.
Right.
That doesn't work. But I was leading by example, and I didn't stop working out and fall off the ladder and gain all the weight back. I just kept going.
Right.
And people started to follow, and then I started coaching others, and I started to connect with people all over the country and Canada, and it just continues to go from there.
So,
but the fun part is the people I'm meeting are some really energetic, focused, driven people. And the ones that aren't as much, they're making a lot of progress and making huge strides from where they were.
Okay.
Even if it's small little steps, it's forward progress.
Take us to the step where the first time you asked someone to pay you for this service.
Yeah, that was
right.
Yeah, it's a process because you always feel, most of us have no problem at all if I recommend, say, a workout to you, and if I don't have any benefit to it, I don't, I would probably talk about it all night, all day. But once the monetary exchange comes in, everyone freaks out. Or like, I'm not a salesman. That's what the typical example is. But really, the quote that I like is, people don't like to be sold, but they like to buy stuff. Which, if there's a certain need, like if you have a need and there's something that would make your life easier, you'll invest in that.
Right.
But you don't just throw money around. We're all like trying to watch what we spend, and even if we're making a lot of money, we still want to make sure we're spending appropriately.
Right.
And if it's like, so I'm just trying to ask questions and see what I can help others with, and help solve their problems. But the first several times, I think I even went into long, this information overload, but as I learned more about the process, I understand that it's really about connections. It's just being able to connect with people and trust. And you don't have to read, don't have to give them a long book. So if someone trusts you enough, they won't really even ask you that many questions. They'll just trust you because tell me what to do.
Right.
Just show me the way.
Yeah.
But it was definitely nerve-wracking at the very beginning.
Yeah. One of the things I hear a lot, we hear a lot is, people won't buy from you until they know you, like you, and trust you.
Yeah.
Right. But once you get through that, then it's a lot easier to get people to buy instead of trying to make a sale.
Yeah, because then you come off as a salesman if you're trying to sell something.
Right.
That someone may not even need. But if you're listening to them and they say, I'm really lethargic and I just don't have that energy, and it's something that works for me, I can definitely show them that.
Yeah.
And then they'd be open to listening. But if it's not anything that's even on their radar, it's just kind of the Charlie Brown talk. You're not going to hear anything.
Right. So you started working out. People started knocking on your door. You started coaching them. What about a lot of things that? So you have this hobby, I guess, that you're good at. You don't have a license. You don't have a certification. What did you do about that?
Well, I guess there's a couple pieces there, because I actually was doing boot camps. I didn't do that very much, But a lot of the coaching is more of guidance
Hmm.
and believe, and it becomes almost like a life coach, helping them believe in themselves and walking them through the programs because I've been through them and I know a lot of how they work and how the nutrition places or comes into play. So I would just basically walking through them and then leaning on the whole group environment. So
Hmm.
other different coaches like myself and other customers that have been through it, and we actually kind of team together. And then like if there's something that someone asked me and I didn't really know the question, then I'd find out for them. But when it was real specific as far as like a fitness trainer, then I never really said I'm a fitness. I don't say that now, but I did get certified in P90X where I was doing boot camps with that. So there's some certifications with the programs specifically. So I was doing that, but um, it's even taken me. I suppose I can share this too. Is that one of my goals has become to be in the fitness videos. I always want to share this publicly because that means that I've come full circle. So that's what it means to me. Is
Right.
that where I started, I'm on the other side. So
Yeah.
that's kind of cool. But there's a lot of other things that I can do with it as far as certification. It just depends on which route I want to go. And
Okay.
people are really coming to me just for trust of the success that I was having, not necessarily how do I do this. How many more push-ups should I do? It was probably a little bit more of a bigger picture.
Okay. Now talk to us about so I'm seeing some more online personal training online. We know about the DVDs that's been around for a very long time, but I'm
Mhm.
seeing more instead of face-to-face personal training. I'm hearing something more about online. Do you do any of that, or do you actually have a brick and mortar business where you do your personal training? How does that work?
No, it's pretty much all virtual. And there's actually some of the trend, there's so much technology now where even Google Hangouts and where I could connect with someone all anywhere in the world probably and guide them. So it's not a lot of the physical pieces so much. It's probably more leaning on the mindset and motivation. How do you stay motivated and digging into the why and why they're doing it and why how it can change your life. So that's a lot of what I'm doing, but I also do groups, virtual groups, things like that, where it's more of accountability.
Yeah.
So it's less on the physical like fitness training, but more on the mindset and life coaching and motivation, inspiring them, and a little bit more of a bigger picture. But the virtual thing is that's where I connect with everyone,
Okay.
and
Wow.
I can use video. There's a lot of things that I can do with that.
All right. So there's no but you still do some face-to-face at all, or no?
Well, we have some local events where we do workouts together and different things like that, but that's more for building community
Yeah.
than for individual training.
Okay.
But the closest I did was the local boot camps where we'd have a class, people would sign up and then they would come and then I'd walk them through the whole class. I like that though. It was fun.
And you said you have a team. You built a team. How does that structure
Yes.
work from a management standpoint? You have employees? How are you?
No, it's network marketing. So that seems like the scary word. Ooh. But it's through Beachbody if I talk about that. And basically what happens is there's a whole what's the transformation process. You really start off with your own journey like me, and you get yourself into shape, and then people start to ask you what you're doing. So then you start to help them, and it just kind of builds. So all these other coaches we're all working together in one team,
Gotcha.
and there's like some of my very close friends, San Francisco, my sister in Dallas, they're New York and all over the country into Canada, and then we do a lot of calls, virtual calls, and then we basically it's along the same path. It's a lot of motivation and setting goals, and a lot of the people, there's a lot of women,
Mm-hmm.
especially. It's a lot of guys, but a lot of women. It's just really driven towards women, and a lot of them are stay-at-home moms, and that's all they do is this, and a lot of them can do really well too. So it's a mindset. It's different than the standard 9 to 5. But that's what kind of where we're going with everything in our culture right now is you can build anything
right.
just with the internet connection. So
Yeah.
that's basically how it works, and we're all building together. Like
Right.
there's so many different personalities that we even have, like some grandmas on the team and some younger people. So some say it's a guy that's 40, he has different questions and needs than someone that's female and 20.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. With everything is becoming virtual, everything is becoming real time.
mhm.
I now have a mechanic, he comes to my house to repair my car. So he does.
That's kind of nice.
Yeah, he doesn't have a shop. He doesn't have anything. He just basically. It took him a long time, and this is a young guy, man. I'm like inspired by him because he's like 25, 26. He has all the licenses that he needs. He went knocking on insurance doors after insurance doors, getting rejected, until finally someone believed in his business model, and insured him. And now he's a roving mechanic. He basically goes around. He has everything he needs in his van, and he takes care of your car, brakes, everything, and his prices are amazing. I love it.
That's a great business model, though. It is because everyone's on the go. If someone's going to come to me, I'll probably give them the business over someone else. I'll
Right.
probably even spend a little bit more because it's convenient.
It's very convenient.
Yeah.
I'm up here spending time with my girls. He's fixing the
Mhm.
car. Next thing I know, he calls me and says the job is done. I go downstairs, I pay him, and we transact.
I love it. I
Yeah.
love it. There's
So
just, I mean, there's even on the fitness and the virtual, the video stuff. Is there's newer technology I was just looking at that you can do like a virtual fit club or virtual workouts where you have people, like say 10 people in a group
right.
all over the country, and you do it at the same time, like a virtual live hangout.
Yeah, nice.
And then if they have questions, but it's just like going to the gym and going to a class, but this would be different because you don't have to travel anywhere. And let's just think of the time saving. If you're at home, you just flip on
Yeah.
your connection and you put the DVD in or whatever you're doing at home, and
Yeah.
it builds such strong community because then you're talking and making friends all over the country.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Things are not limited to your neighborhood, your block, your town.
Yeah.
It's with the internet and technologies, your business could be worldwide within a matter of days. Yeah.
And then you can also make connections that have a lot of very similar interests,
Right.
deeper niches, or someone that likes very specific item. Not only like I don't know,
Hmm.
maybe if hunting would be too broad, but if you're a basket weaver, like basket weaving with certain type of
Right.
weaving technology or whatever, then you could find those people. But
Right.
the chances of them being in your neighborhood are pretty slim.
Yeah. And you probably only need what 100, 1,000 people to,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, and you make a living that could support you and your
hmm
family. So,
Exactly.
what does entrepreneurship mean to you now, since we're on that topic?
It means time freedom, be able to do what I want. Time freedom is the big thing, and then just independence to work on things that I really am passionate about.
Hmm.
Because well, work is always work, but when I'm doing things that I really enjoy, it's hard to turn it off.
Hmm.
They always say you work 100 hours so you don't have to work 40 as an
Yeah.
entrepreneur, but I want, and that goes back to my daughters, is I want to show them that I can be passionate about what I'm doing. I can create time freedom by working at home and travel somewhere and maybe do a little work, but also have the balance of shutting things down, having shutting the technology down, and just having a conversation, going out and seeing some things in nature, whatever, just out in the world, some
Hmm.
simple things, going for a walk somewhere you haven't been before,
Yeah.
just being able to have that freedom and not walk around with a glossy look in my eyes that I don't have any, because I see that when I go somewhere in public, Target, I see someone in line and they're
Mm.
just looks defeated. I
Yeah.
don't want that to be me.
Yeah. Awesome. So Greg, we're over the halfway point, and this is where we start to pick up the pace a little bit with the responses, because I want to be
hmm
respectful of your time.
Sure.
Um, and we're now entering the segment that I call Real Dads, Real Talk. And this is where we go deep. And when I start to ask a couple of tough questions, just to get some answers to again, tackle that fear that dads have with starting their own business and having to support, their family. So my first question is, as a father, how, what are this, having your own business, sorry, as a father, having your own business, there's always that fear of failure, right? The people with the glossy eyes that you're talking about,
Hmm.
they feel more secure in getting that paycheck every week, having that 9 to 5. They go in at 9, they come out at 5, they get a paycheck on Friday, maybe on Wednesday if they have direct deposit or something like that. But when you start your own business, right, there's a fear of, am I going to be able to get, paid every week? So how are you dealing with that? And talk to us about how are you going to make your final, or when you're going to make your final leap, I guess.
Well, it's quite it's not easy. I guess I'll pick up my pace here now. Let's go. It's not you have to be ready to have some down days. You're going to have higher ups and lower lows when you go through this, but the reason why you're doing it is stronger than just going to to the 9 to 5.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something that I see myself doing in the very near future is doing what I'm passionate about full time. But I don't want to like do that until I have so I don't have to sleep in a tent outside. I'm not really ready to do that yet. But so there's a fine line between the two.
Yeah.
Is having a real plan and having some things really rolling,
Yeah.
and then taking the leap.
Yeah, I had one guest on, Kerry Uberbrunner. He was actually my first guest, and he gave an analogy where basically, and it's very visual, where he says your dream job, right? His platform is called Day Job to Dream Job. Your dream job is out in the ocean. It's a boat out in the ocean, and you are currently in your day job, and that's the shore. And basically, your task is to bring that boat closer and closer and closer. So you're working your full-time job, but you're building your dream job on the side. And the more you're building it, that boat is coming closer and closer. And eventually, you're going to have to take a leap into the frigid water.
Yeah, yeah.
That's going to have to happen. But at least your swim is not going to be as far as just
Right.
burn the ship and just jump in and just start your own
Right.
business.
Because you can have a wetsuit on and everything else if you need it. It's serious, right? Time to get. This is my. I love to wear hats, so
Yeah.
I'm getting serious now.
Right. When you put that on, I remember what's that movie? Over the Top. Over the Top. Sylvester
Oh,
Stallone.
yes, that's an old one. Wow,
Yeah, that's
the arm
yeah.
wrestling, right?
Right, arm wrestling.
Well,
What's
I joke about that as what's the age cutoff to wear a hat backwards? It's whatever I want it to be, I guess. So.
that's right. What's the hardest personal sacrifice you've had to make along your journey?
The hardest sacrifice. Wow, that's tough. It's not necessarily food items because I don't really crave anything basically, if I want something, I usually end up eating it, but I don't really. I created a system of what I like to eat is healthier options.
Hmm.
So that was small changes. Wow, that's a tough one. What's the toughest thing I gave up? For part of it is just I'm so driven now that it's hard to sit down. So I've given up a lot of TV.
Yeah.
I used to do a lot of TV watching. That's part of the story is that I would watch right before I started this whole journey is I'd watch 24 at night for 2 or 3 hours sometimes. Each
Yeah.
night I was just getting hooked on it.
Yeah, you were
And I'd
binging.
have I was a couple beers with dinner sometimes, and it just like, but I was living my life through someone else,
Mm.
and that was my relaxation. And I stopped that, and I started doing other things instead of that. And there's a few other things that I think, well, food items come to mind, but even beer. I gave up beer completely, but it's
Yeah.
not something I really crave now. It's just that was a whole process for me. Is that I cut part of it out, and then now I don't really. I drink my drink is gin and tonic. I still drink like I have red wine, gin and
Right.
tonic. That's about it. And I still socialize. I drink, but I just don't have any desire to drink beer anymore. I guess so. For a guy, that's like taking your man card away.
Right. Exactly.
So it's not anything that was terribly. It wasn't hard, I guess, if I say that, but it was. It's definitely different. It's
Yeah.
something that I used to do a lot of, and I don't do anymore.
Yeah.
Just
It's all part
small
of it.
changes turned into that.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, and there's a quote by Les Brown, and I promised myself I'm going to memorize this quote because I tend to use it a lot, or I really like the quote, and it's basically like a mind that has reached a certain path, a mind that has stretched beyond a certain limit can never return back to where they were, right? And this is what I'm
Yes.
focusing on with startup. That is that as you start to build that mental shift, as you start to take those small steps mentally, and then start taking the actual physical steps, you're not going to look back, man. You're not going to look back.
Yeah, and I've heard a similar line where you can't unlearn what you already learned, or
Right,
something like those, where once you know something, you can't just not know it.
right.
That's hard, and you just want to keep moving forward, and that's progress, I guess.
Yeah.
Progress.
So we're now entering our final segment, and I like to call this the rapid fire handyman segment. So this
All
is
right.
this is where you have your two daughters. They're basically knocking on the door. They say, "Hey, Dad, we want to go to the mall. Let's get out of here. Get off your interview, and I want you basically fire off the questions, fire off the answers.
Okay.
All right. What is
Sounds
your
good.
what is your number one time management hack or tool?
Lately, I've been using
Yeah.
ifttt.com. You've
Yeah.
probably heard of that, but I use it for part of my video uploads too.
Okay. Awesome.
And I have one video sent to me, a motivation video for every morning.
Tell us a
All
little
part of
bit. Tell us a little bit about what if does.
Oh, IFT is if this then that. It's a free service, and it hooks in with YouTube, Twitter, and a lot of different other platforms where you can create. There's a lot of different recipes, is what they call it, and you can create your own, but it just automates simple tasks. A lot of, like, one example is every time I post a YouTube video, it posts to Twitter, and every time I post, and then I set an alarm every morning at 5:30. I have this specific YouTube video sent to my, or sent a text to my phone,
Mm.
and that's, I get up in the morning and it goes off, and I don't watch it every morning, but that's the idea. Is that's my early morning motivation, is to watch that video to start the day off. So it really
Nice.
automates things and triggers things that makes you stay on track and helps you out throughout the day. But it's really convenient.
Yeah, I definitely have to do an episode or at least something on just automation because with everything that we have going on between full-time job, entrepreneurship, and the kids, you got to automate as much as you can. So I definitely want to do something on that.
No, exactly. I love it.
Yeah. What is one way? Well, one of my questions is what is one way you manage your health, but that's not a question you need. What is one book every startup dad should absolutely read?
One book, I'll go back to, well, I like Crush It, but Rich Dad Poor Dad or Crush It. Rich Dad
Yeah,
Poor Dad started the journey for me, and then Crush It really is. It's
yeah,
a simple read, but yet, by Gary Vaynerchuk. It's simple, but yet the concept is very strong. If you want to do something, just get out there and hustle and pour yourself into it.
yeah, yeah. Definitely, I actually haven't read Crush It as of yet. As you can see
Oh,
behind me, I do have jab, jab, jab,
yes,
right hook.
yes.
But I need to get Crush It and definitely read that.
Get the audio of Crush It. It's the best.
Now, do
Because
you do
he does, Gary does the audio, and then he goes off script a lot too, so it's really good.
do you do a lot of audio?
I usually prefer that because I'm in the car, or if I'm on the go, I can listen to something very easily. I was painting my daughter's room at the house. I painted both of the rooms a couple months ago, and they were off doing something, and I downloaded a book, painting. I got the whole book read while I was, or the whole book listened to, I guess, while I completed a project, and so that's the way to do it for me.
Yeah.
I couldn't have sat down and read it.
Yeah. And the final question is, we talked about fatherhood, we talked about entrepreneurship. Where do you see the intersection between those two? And I think you talked a bit about it a little bit
Mhm.
earlier, but tell us exactly where do you see the intersection between fatherhood and entrepreneurship?
That's a great question because I see them very much blending together because I want to lead by example. I want my daughters to see what I'm doing, and they talk about it at school, so I know that and then with their friends, that I know that they're seeing what I'm doing, and I feel it's important for me to keep them in the whole process, to walk them through. A lot of times I say, do you know why I'm doing this? Let me
Mm,
show you what I'm doing, and let's work together, and then I'll try to integrate them into what I'm doing as best I can because I want them to see that for themselves, and I
Yeah.
want them as they get older to know that there are other options and that they can do whatever they want. I asked my daughters if they wanted if they wear a shirt with my logo for the podcast on. They're like, "Oh yeah, can I wear it to school?" So I know that they really respect what I'm doing, and they know they're very observant, and they pick up a lot of the passion and the people around. So it's very
Right.
important.
Yeah. Yeah. Greg, this was an awesome interview, and we definitely want to hear more about your journey, and as bring you back onto the show and talk about once you take that leap, we definitely want to talk about that. My final question is a little long, but it always produces really powerful answers. And here it is. On the other side of this broadcast is a startup dad who, at this point, is fired up and ready to go. And as soon as the broadcast is over, he will put down his mobile device, and by next week, he'll be back into the day-to-day minutia of things. What would you say to that dad to keep him motivated beyond this broadcast?
He has to dig down deep and know why. I mean, that seems cliche again too, because that's used a lot. But if you don't have a real purpose in what you're doing, the motivation will be gone in a few days. And that's the same with exercise or business or whatever you're doing. You have to know why. And for me, it's very strong. I want to create a lifestyle that's easy, not just the day to day, the grind, the rat race. I don't want to do that, and that burns inside of me. So you have to find something that you won't let go of, and that you will never stop. You'll shift and change things as needed, but you're always going to keep pounding it down that wall. And then when the motivation and the people that are inspiring you aren't there, you have to still know why you're doing it for yourself. That you have to take some self-reflection and personal development, but always keep reading as many books as you can. That's so important.
Yeah. Awesome. So, Greg, thank you for your time. Thank you for sharing your startup dad journey and for a truly inspiring episode. Please take a moment, share any final words, let the folks know where they can find you, your programs, what you have available, and then we'll say goodbye.
Thank you for having me on. You can find me out at I have several things going on, but my main podcast is thelifeofnow.com, and there's some really cool upgrades coming with that. A lot of new video stuff coming out, but my YouTube channel is youtube.getfitwithgreg.com, and the website for the fitness site is getfitwithgreg.com. Tons of other ways to connecting with me, but reach out and I'd be more than happy to just connect and have a conversation. Just start with that and just see how I can help, because I truly do want to help as much as I can, lead you down the path and show you what is possible, because I see what I've been able to do, and I have tons of other goals, and I want everyone to have that. But you have to want that as well. If you're fine with where you're at, that's great. But this show is meant for dads that want more, really. So reach out and connect with as many people as you can, and get a huge network of positivity going. And there's no stopping you, really. So reach out to me.
Awesome. Thank you, Greg.
Thank you.